Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for my team selector and preview ahead of the FA Cup final. Chelsea versus Leicester tomorrow night. Thomas Tuchel's chance to win his first piece of silverware as Chelsea's head coach. Our chance to win our first trophy since 2019 in Baku, the Europa League final. I mean, you think about how much has changed. Not only at Chelsea, Maurizio Sarri was manager then, but we had fans in attendance. Frank Lampard hadn't arrived as Chelsea's head coach yet. Eden Hazard was playing his final game at Chelsea. How long ago that was. And for Chelsea, having that gap without a piece of silverware is quite big, isn't it? So hopefully we can pick up our silverware tomorrow, get back to winning ways in FA Cup finals, because Chelsea have such a rich history in this competition. And I think it'd be so big for the mentality of this squad to win a piece of silverware. I think they need it. Going to give you team news, look at Leicester, look at my breakdown of sort of tactics in this FA Cup final, and also give you my predicted lineup. But before we get into any of that good stuff, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads on the channel. If we do win the FA Cup, you want to be staying tuned because there'll be some great content post that final if Chelsea do win the trophy tomorrow, but also other stuff, news, reviews of the remaining games of the Premier League season and the Champions League final too, all the build up to that and beyond that, as I'll have announcements soon regarding my summer content with the Euros as well. But let's get into it. Team news. So the great thing is, it seems like I think everyone is fit, and it just feels quite weird to be going into a game because, of course, we had Cover injured recently. We've had other players too, Rudiger missing a couple of games. He has a full squad to choose from, Thomas Tuchel, which is the perfect scenario going into an FA Cup final. Gives him a lot of options. We know Kepa Arrizabalaga is going to start, and this has been a point of debate because of the brilliance of Edouard Mendy. I'm not going to be overly dramatic about this because just the stats show you that, you know, Kepa under Thomas Tuchel has been really good, and I don't think we can blame him for the mistake of Jorginho the other night. That's not his fault. I just think Mendy's dominance in that position, given the trophies at stake, given all the pressure and scrutiny of this game, we know what Kepa's frailties have been. But on the flip side, I like the fact that he is the cup keeper and Thomas Tuchel's putting his trust into him. I mean, from another side, financially, you could say, putting Kepa in this game, you know, how are Chelsea going to get any value back for him? You know, if Kepa has an amazing game tomorrow night, Chelsea in the transfer market could be in a pretty strong position, or at least get more admirers towards taking Kepa basically out of Chelsea. But I understand that decision. I think we all expected he was going to start this final, so I don't think Wednesday's game changes that, and he will be starting N'Golo Kante. There was some concern over his fitness, which I think gave us all a heart attack, to be honest, going into this game, but he is ready. He is going to start against his former club. Mateo Kovacic is finally back. Massive, I think, for the remaining games of the season in terms of rotation. We know what Kova has brought to Thomas Tuchel's team. I don't think he'll start, but being on the bench is big. And Andreas Christensen is back too. I believe he's back in the squad. He's definitely back in training. So great for Christensen if he could feature tomorrow, but also that Champions League final, because he's been such a big part of Thomas Tuchel's team in the FA Cup, in the Champions League, and of course in the Premier League. So great to have him back. As I said, first chance for a trophy since May 2019. Supporters inside the ground has always been the thing sort of making this competition so important personally for me. Unfortunately, I can't be at the ground tomorrow, but seeing fans inside Wembley Stadium, the first time Thomas Tuchel will have Chelsea fans inside the ground, and what a way to sort of get used to those fans by gifting them a trophy for the first time they see you basically in person. I think it is so special. So it's going to add that intensity to the game, and hopefully it will, because hopefully now that Arsenal game is the last time we see an empty Stamford Bridge. We've got fans back for this game. We've got fans back for Leicester on Tuesday, 10,000 at the Bridge for that massive Premier League game. And we do have fans, even if they aren't Chelsea fans, at Villa Park for the remaining game, and fans of some kind at the Champions League final. So it seems like we are getting back to normality. Consistently having fans back in stadiums is a massive plus, and hopefully will add the right energy, focus and intensity needed for a game of this magnitude. Let's take a look at Leicester. This is such a massive game for them as a club. All the great work they've done. It does feel like a culmination of that. And we go into cup finals and people will say, oh, who needs this cup more? I think that's a bit irrelevant at times, because for both clubs it means so much, you know, for both sets of supporters. But, you know, you think about the great work Leicester have done on and off the pitch. I think their recruitment has been incredible. They're one of the best sides in the Premier League for recruitment, and that shows with where they sit currently in the Premier League table. You know, of course, there's concerns for them of making that Champions League place, you know, and keeping themselves in the top four, because of course they dropped out of it last season, but they are ahead of Chelsea in the Premier League table and pretty much have been ahead of Chelsea in the Premier League table for most of this season. Their form has been a bit patchy recently, it has to be said. They've had some nerves, they've had some freakishly bad performances. I think about the Newcastle defeat. They did beat Man United the other night at Old Trafford. It was a weakened Man United side, but Brendan Rodgers will know the importance of this personally for him, of course, having great history with Chelsea and struggling to beat them at times in big games. I think about Kelechi Iheanacho, their top goal scorer this season. He's done so well in terms of goal scoring form, but just generally that squad, the young talent in that squad too. If they could couple winning an FA Cup with also a top 4 place, it would be an incredible season for them. Leicester will see this game as the biggest in many years for them, and that will probably raise the intensity of their game, where maybe someone like Arsenal or Man United a few years ago, because they're at this stage very frequently, maybe sometimes can take it for granted. So that's what makes this game, I think, really dangerous for Chelsea. And of course, it's an FA Cup final, and the talent that Leicester have within their team. I think tactically, even though Brendan started with a 4-4-2 the other night at Old Trafford, I think he will switch back to the 3-back system he has been using pretty consistently recently. Johnny Evans is the big sort of fitness doubt for them, but Brendan Rodgers has said that he expects him to be fit, and he's such a big part of the way that defensive unit is so calm, so assured, but also the leadership and experience that Johnny Evans has brought since he arrived at the club a few years ago. So he's been a brilliant signing for them. I think, Leicester could very well match Chelsea up in terms of both formations. I mean, 3-4-1-2 here. You see James Maddison playing in behind Jamie Vardy and Kelechi Iheanacho. I expect that could be the formation. This was the lineup they played against Southampton a few weeks ago. Maddison didn't start the other night. I expect him to start this game. I just cannot see Brennan not doing this in terms of, I think he'll be worried about the defensive sort of security and the fact that Chelsea do like to hit teams on the break. So I think he'd maybe want the security of having those wing backs, having the 3-back system rather than maybe a more open 4-4-2 that Chelsea and Tuchel could exploit a lot easier. So I think there could be a matchup in formations, but we know the quality of someone like Jamie Vardy. It's such a big threat in behind, a bit like Timo Werner is, but Vardy's been such an accomplished Premier League forward. He hasn't been amazing in terms of goals recently. That front two, more of the goal scoring has been on Kelechi Iheanacho, which is a bit of a surprise. But Vardy's overall hard work and link-up play is so big for the way Leicester attack. And James Maddison is such a great talent. The way he can thread passes in behind the front two, and a bit like the way Mason Mount, so key to the way they build up their attacks. Yuri Tielemans, Wilfred Ndidi, a really good midfield pair I think many teams would want to have. And as well, I think that defensive unit, Wesley Fofana has been another smart buy. Johnny Evans, the experience there. Soyuncu did score a winner the other night, but that could be an area Chelsea could exploit, because I think Soyuncu has had some shaky moments. I do wonder if that's because Johnny Evans wasn't there. I think the partnership those two have had as a back two at times in recent seasons, I think those two really work well together. So that may be the reason Soyuncu has struggled. Also has had some injury problems this season too. Cup finals are usually tight games. They are. I mean, I think that's generally the case with most of them. I think I look back to that League Cup final between Spurs and Man City. There's no comparison in terms of the quality of either side. You would have expected Man City to win that game more comfortably, but it still ends up as a 1-0. That's the pressure of these games. I think it will be a very low scoring final in my opinion. It could be a 2-1 like last year. I think it's more likely to be a 1-0 with Thomas Tuchel in charge. I think that's the way sort of Tuchel has gone about things, and I think going into Chelsea's approach against Leicester, I think it will be a very counter-attacking approach. I think it will be very similar to the way Chelsea approached the Man City FA Cup semi-final, and also the way Chelsea have approached a lot of games under Thomas Tuchel, the big, intense games that Tuchel has got so right. Chelsea perform better in counter-attacking sort of games. I think we struggle when a team sits back and just allows us the ball. I think we really struggle to break down teams, as we saw against Arsenal. I think what you will see in this game is Leicester will have more of the ball, and I think that Tuchel will try to keep that compact defensive unit and use pace in behind, use the likes of Timo Werner, Hakim Ziyech, Mason Mount to really expose Leicester's frailties in transition potentially, and also at set pieces. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think Kurt Zouma is playing in this game, but if we could score from set pieces is another area I think Leicester really struggle to defend with and have pretty consistently. So if Mount's delivery is good and someone like Rudy or Thiago Silva could capitalise, that could be a defining moment in the game too that Chelsea should absolutely be looking to exploit with Mount's delivery from corners. This is my first predicted lineup. I think the predicted lineup for me is, I just look at the front three, which is always the big conversation. I think that we kind of know what the bulk of the team is. We know Kepa and Kante are going to start. That back three, even though Christensen is back in training, I still expect Dave, Thiago Silva and Rudiger. Rudiger, who did not play against either West Brom or Arsenal. He is such a big player for Chelsea in terms of the way we aggressively defend, press up the pitch, but also the way he progresses the ball in that back three. You know, that back three at times can be a really great creative outlet for Chelsea in games, and Rudiger and Thiago Silva are big parts of that. So we absolutely missed Rudiger the other day. He's been in the form of his career, and a bit of personal redemption for Rudiger, who had a bad time last year in the FA Cup final, if you remember his mistake in the run-up to Aubameyang's winner. So hopefully some personal redemption there, but he's been so key for Chelsea. So then, of course, you see Dave, Reece James, N'Golo Kante, Jorginho. Despite Jorginho's mistake, I fully expect him to start for this game, and apart from that mistake, he's been pretty brilliant for Thomas Tuchel. He really has. Ben Chilwell against his former club, I think, deserves to start here. And then you get that front three where I think Mount, Ziyech and Werner is my number one front three. I think for a counter-attacking game, I think it just works so much better for Chelsea. I think these three have a natural chemistry between them. I think they've worked so well against the likes of Man City, also Liverpool. I just think the way Ziyech and Werner in particular combine, usually Werner setting up Ziyech, I think could be quite devastating here. And I think Ziyech has been in good form despite not starting every single game. I think he has found a run of form at the right time of the season, goal scoring, but also creatively, that could really help Chelsea tomorrow night. And I think it's all about finding that space in between Leicester's midfield and defence. Timo making those runs in between the fullback and centre backs, and Mason dropping deeper to help midfield, but also Fred those passes through to Werner, who has good chemistry, as already said, with Ziyech. I also think Ben Chilwell, the switches of play over the top to Ziyech, could be exploited, could be used to exploit Leicester at times if they're playing a little bit more of a high line, and Chelsea maybe go ahead in the game and can sit a little bit further back basically and try and counter even more. I think Timo Werner not playing at all on Wednesday means he's guaranteed to start this game, in my opinion. The second lineup is the exact same lineup we saw against Real Madrid in the second leg, where instead of having Hakim Ziyech, we have Kai Havertz, Mason Mount playing as kind of that number 10 just a little bit below, the way Havertz and Werner combined. I also think N'Golo Kante in both of these lineups is going to be so key. We know the importance of N'Golo Kante defensively, his intercepting, his mobility, getting those interceptions in that really help us defensively, which usually actually help us offensively too. He is so much a part of the way we transition at times, counter-attacks. You see a lot of counter-attacks start from N'Golo Kante, and against Real Madrid, Kante played a box-to-box role. He was a lot more offensive. He was someone that's usually starting the attacks. You look at both goals, he was a key part of them, even if he didn't get an assist for either, but he was a massive part of both of our goals against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final. Having him back is big, but I also think potentially offensively as well, Kante can be used a lot more. I think we lacked his running in behind or just more offensively against Arsenal actually in midweek, so great to have him back. That is my lineup. Here's how I think both lineups will look on the pitch. I think, as I say, I think Leicester will go with an 11 of Schmeichel, Fofana, Evans, if he's fit. I think he will be fit for this game. Soyuncu, Thomas, Tielemans, Ndidi, Castagna, Vardy, Maddison, Iheanacho. For Chelsea, as I've already said, I think that will be my lineup. I think that's how the two will line up. It's going to be tense. It's going to be cagey. It's going to be close. I think I'd be very stunned. I think something ridiculous has to happen. Either team is completely off their game. Chelsea come out, and suddenly decide to start scoring all of our big chances. Similarly, Leicester come out and they're ready for it, and Chelsea just aren't at the races, maybe affected by that Arsenal defeat, or you get an early red card, for instance. I think I think something has to transpire here, but I do think both of these teams usually serve up good football, and I think it will be a good football game. I think you won't see a very dour final, but I still think it will be a very close one. That let's hope Chelsea and Thomas Tuchel can get the job done, because it'll be a very, very special evening for Chelsea Football Club. That is my preview, my lineup, my thoughts on the tactics, all of that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts now in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this preview. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. See you tomorrow evening, and I'll see you again.